Moving on to writing. And again, some of this stuff sounds nitpicky. There may be a little bit here that's nitpicky, but most of the stuff that I'm talking about here is very practical, and I think it's necessary for effective writing, and it's necessary for the purpose of this class specifically. And that's why I wouldn't harp on it if it were not. So these rules that I'm and suggestions I'm giving, these are good rules to follow in writing and document structure. But a good writer knows how to break these rules for effect. And it reminds me of graphic design. I'm not very good at graphic design, but I do remember there are 4 basic principles of graphic design. Contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. A good graphic designer follows those guidelines. A very dynamic and an excellent graphic designer knows how to break these rules for effect. But before you break the rules, you have to master them first. And so that's the case with writing. So if you're very good at writing, you probably aren't going to have a problem. I'm probably not going to say anything about it if you break the rules. But if you struggle with it, that's what this guideline is for, is to try to give you these rules so that you conform to them, so that you do the best job of conveying the information you're trying to convey. And in academic writing, for the most part, it's best to follow the rules. And the practical purpose of this is it makes it easier for your audience to assimilate the information you're trying to convey. So, document structure, that's simply, it's more than this, but essentially it's headings, introduction, body, paragraphs, conclusion. This helps break up the information so there's more easily digestible to the audience. And think of it like digestion of food. This is an analogy, and I don't believe it is a false analogy. I think this is an accurate analogy. Think of it like digesting food. Your body mechanically and chemically breaks down the food into components and the different nutrient components so that it's better assimilated by your body. When you use proper document structure and break up that information, it makes it more easily assimilated, the information more easily assimilated for the reader. Begin with a good, strong thesis statement in your introduction. It doesn't have to be the first sentence, and a lot of times it isn't. But in that first paragraph, write a sentence that summarizes what your paper is about. And a really simple formula to follow in all your papers is, tell me what you're going to tell me. Introduction. Tell me. Body. Tell me what you told me. Conclusion. So tell me what you're going to tell me. Tell me what you told me. When a train of thought ends, start a new paragraph. Don't try to cram 5 trains of thought into a single paragraph. Again, this makes it easier for your audience to assimilate the information. It indicates that you're moving on to another train of thought. And if you read pages of unbroken text and have all these different trains of thoughts in it, it's very difficult to assimilate that information. It's very difficult to read. When a set of ideas insert a subheading for the next set of ideas. This helps your reader so that they can skim through it, they can see where things begin and end. It helps them to backtrack if they're reading it and say, oh, what did that mean? They go back. And it just makes it easier. And if you take this to heart, you'll start seeing this in people's emails. You'll see this in other people's writing. You'll go to a website and think, God, it's like 5 pages worth of just solid text with no no headings, no indentations, nothing, and I just gotta slog through this just stream of text and try to figure out what all of this means. I started but didn't finish a book by I think it was Joseph Heller that was like that. I think he would have pages and pages of no paragraph indentations or anything. And I think even pages and pages of single sentences. But apparently he's a literary genius and can do that. I did not find it enjoyable. But I'm reading another book by Joseph Heller right now that is pretty good. But sorry, I just digressed. I'm telling you, cold medicine. Ugh. So, concision, active and passive voice. I know this sounds nitpicky, but I assure you this is not nitpicky. This is very important to proper communication. For the purposes of this class, concision is very important, specifically because our assignments are short. I know they don't seem like it, but these are short assignments. You have a lot to say in a few words. 4 pages is not a lot of room to talk about an ethical issue and talk about it in terms of an ethical theory and comparing it and contrasting that interpretation to another ethical theory. 4 pages is very short for that. You're not required to simply submit 4 pages of words and sentences. You're required to submit 4 pages worth of information on the topic. So if you write 4 pages of information that you could have summarized in 2 pages, you're in effect only turning in 2 pages. You're only turning in half what is expected of you. Likewise, it makes it easier on your audience if you write concisely. If it takes someone reading through 4 pages that they could take someone reading through 4 pages to get the same information they could get by reading 2 pages, you're making them work harder. So, active and passive voice. I'm not going to define what this means, and I think it takes some time to understand what this means, unless you pick up on it right away. It took me a while to figure out what it means and why it's important. But generally, active voice is something like something is done by so-and-so. And making that same statement in active voice would be so-and-so does something. So see, you're switching the predicate and subject. Passive voice. Something is done by so-and-so. Active voice. So-and-so does something. So an example of passive voice would be, I am helped by him. The same statement in active voice is, he helps me. And you see, for concision, you cut the sentence almost in half. And think if you do this, if you write a whole paper in passive voice, you're taking up, you could be taking up twice as much space as you could if you'd written in active voice. Likewise, active voice is just more engaging. It holds the reader's attention. And again, if you start getting familiar with these concepts, and you'll start seeing it in other people's writing. And reading something in nothing but passive voice is kind of maddening.